Hey everyone, just want to do a quick check for the sound and that you can see my remote desktop screen here. If you can just drop a little note into the questions section that you can see and hear me. Good, thank you, Matt. Thanks, Patrick, Jeff, Roy, Josh. Thank you guys, appreciate that. We're just going to give people one more minute to try to trickle in here and we'll get started. All right, it's about 10:32 Central, so let's get started. So welcome to another weekly webinar in our series here. We're going to do this one a little bit differently. If you're familiar with how we've been doing these weekly webinars, typically we start off with just a PowerPoint slide deck with some information, and then I'll do a quick demo at the end. But for this one, I think that we have all the documentation and everything you need already on our website and knowledge base. And so I just want to jump straight into the demo, go through each one of these one by one for the notifier types, and just get into configuring each one of these. I don't really think there's a need to have a slide deck for this, and hopefully, this is going to be something that you can just follow exactly what I'm going to show you how to do here, and then be great at doing it on your own after this. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jeremiah, and I manage the tech support team. We've been doing these weekly webinars for a few months now, and it's going well. So this is for all of the notifiers, and then some troubleshooting tips at the end. So we're just going to go from left to right here for email, SMS, voice, and then the new mobile app. Keep in mind that it is just a recommendation from WIN-911 that you have at least two, right? You don't want a single point of failure on these. If you're just using email and something's wrong with the email server or the connection, no one's getting any notifications. So you want at least two. The more the better. You have more options and some failover if one of them doesn't work, right? So you're in the workspace here, right? And you're going to set up email. Now, there's an outgoing server, an incoming server. You're gonna start on the outgoing server part. Now, you can use any mail server you want. If you have a corporate one that's in your company, all of these settings are gonna come from your mail server guys, your IT department, whoever's in charge of that. Every one of these options is gonna come from that mail server, whoever's in charge of it. If you're using Gmail, like this example, super easy. All of you can do it, and it's pretty easy to set up. So I'm going to use that as my example here today. Just keep in mind that if you are using your own internal mail server, we can't really do a lot with helping you set that up, other than kind of giving you the information I'm going to give you today, which is you need a username, you need a password, and your mail server needs to be configured to allow this connection. A little bit easier for us to help if it's using something like Google. Because again, it's just web-based and you can just go make an account and you're done. So you can see here, the host, this is all going to be empty, by the way. The host, and this is all publicly available, is just smtp.gmail.com. If you don't know this or you forget this, again, it's all just public information. You can just go to the internet and type in what is Google's SMTP server, and you're going to find plenty of examples for the domain name and anything you need to do or anything you need to find for how to set it up. There's going to be just a ton of articles to help you out. It's going to tell you that the port is 465 or 587. You need to have your Google account and password, and your outgoing mail server is smtp.gmail.com. So Again, you can find that whenever you need to. So we have smtp.gmail.com. You want to click on use TLS SSL, allow invalid certificates, port 587, again, publicly available information. You just make an email address if you don't have one already. I just made one called WIN-911 destination at Gmail. Make sure that you check the box for my server requires authentication, because Google's going to require that. Obviously, it's not just an open relay. Now, if you're using your own internal mail server that doesn't have any type of account authentication, no security checks, you might not have to do this. You might not have to check my server requires authentication. But again, that's coming from whoever set up your guys' mail server. So for the authentication, it goes to this drop down of the username and password. The username is obviously the email address again, and then this is your password for, if you're going to log into your own Gmail account. Again, if this is your own corporate mail server or Microsoft Outlook, Live, any other web server, it's your account that was set up on that mail server. So it's your Outlook, it's your mail server user account that your IT department has given you, but it needs to be set up from them. So once you have all this information set up, you gotta check this box for I understand the warning above. This is telling you that this is reserved for WIN-911. Don't attempt to access the account from another mail client, and be aware that WIN-911 will delete messages on this account. So if you're using your personal account, you have important stuff in there. Just make sure that you don't use that personal account that you want to keep emails in, because this will delete the inbox. So just go make another one. Or use just a test account or something you guys set up. And then you can just do send test email, and you can type in another one in here. So WIN-911 source at gmail.com is another one I've set up real quick for this. And this will test the settings and tell you if it's successful or not. Now, if you don't get this green check mark and success, you get an error. We're going to talk about pretty much the whole spectrum of troubleshooting is going to be at the end for all of these, because it's going to be kind of the same steps. You're going to put it in the debug logging mode and check the logs. It'll tell you what's going on. So we'll talk about the troubleshooting for all of the notifier types at the end here. All right, so that's it for the outgoing side. You got the good test there. You go to incoming, and you check the box for enable incoming mail server. Now, if you're not going to be doing acknowledgments and replying back via email, you don't have to do this. But if you are going to be acknowledging via email, you have to check this to have the incoming mail checked. So the type here is POP3 or IMAP. It really doesn't matter. I use POP3. If you don't know what the host means, again, just go Google what is Gmail's POP3 host, and it's pop.gmail.com. If it's IMAP, it's going to be imap.gmail.com, I'm sure. If this is your own mail server or Outlook, again, that comes from whoever set this up for you, the mail server admin, your IT department. They give you this information. Outlook or Microsoft Online, 365, all that good stuff is going to be publicly available as well. I believe that the only kind of more difficult part with Office 365 is going to be some type of relay that they're going to want to be set up, because we are just a third-party mail server client. We're just requesting to send an email. That's all WIN-911 does. And Office 365 is going to ask you to set up a relay for your public IP of your network, your domain, talking to Office 365. So again, that's all on their side. You can look that up very easily, how to set up an email relay through Office 365. So you want to use SSL and allow invalid certificates. Always make sure you check this, because again, we're just a software mail client. We're not some actual certified mail server out there on the cloud or something. The port should be 995 for POP3, and again, publicly available. And you don't need to do anything with the pull rate if you don't want to. It's just saying how often is it going to check for incoming mail. This is once a minute. And then you can just use outgoing credentials if you're using the same account that you used for the outgoing server, and test incoming server settings. and test successful. So basically all that does is go out, authenticate, try to pull down the email and make sure that it can actually do that step. So that's it for email. Again, pretty simple. It can get a little more complex, again, if you guys are using your own mail servers and maybe you're not aware of what those settings need to be, but again, that needs to come from your IT department or whoever set that up and gives you access with an account through that server. All right, so again, we will talk about troubleshooting at the end. So we're going to go over to SMS. Now, ideally, I would have an SMS modem on me and plug that into my laptop, but laptop doesn't even have a serial port, and I don't have the physical SMS modem with me because we're all working remote still. But I'm going to just show you how to set it up and go through the KB article with you. Again, all of this stuff, if you have no idea even where to start, right? So this is why I wanted to just jump straight into the demo. You're here on this page and you have no idea what to do. Go ahead and open up our website, WIN-911.com, and you can go to support, the knowledge base, and that's going to bring you here. And you can scroll down to the contact methods, and then here's the SMS modem install guides. So there's only a few modems that you could have the possibility of using if you're using WIN-911. They're our certified and tested and supported modems, and we have a guide for each one right here. So the MTR LVW2 and the LAT1, those are our older supported modems, but they're still supported. The newest one is going to be the Sierra Wireless and MTC LNA4. So let's just say that you purchased a modem tomorrow and you want to go through and check out how to set it up. Go ahead and click on the guide, and this is going to tell you everything you need to know. Just read through this, right? It's going to tell you that it requires WIN-911 version 4.20.5 or newer. You need to get a SIM card. You need to get this activated from a wireless cellular provider, right? So just because you have the SMS modem, that doesn't mean anything. You need to get a SIM card that can talk to, a cell service provider, AT&T, Verizon. Now this modem happens to support both AT&T and Verizon. And by default, the modem is configured with AT&T, and it'll tell you how to run a command to change that if you're using Verizon. So again, this gives you everything you need to know. If you just walk through this guide, you're a pro at setting up the SMS modem at the end of it. It tells you how to install the SIM card, connect your antennas, the modem configuration. You'll see it in the device manager. It'll take a COM port, and you'll see it just like in this picture, USB serial port COM3. That's what it's going to look like. So you look for that, and then you know which COM port to set it up as in WIN-911. It tells you that AT&T users, you're done. You don't need to do anything to the modem. Verizon users, you need to PuTTY into it. You can download PuTTY here. Serial connection shows you an example. Go to the COM port, put the speed of 115/200, and then run these commands. All this does is just switch the provider network inside the modem, telling it to use the Verizon cellular service. So pretty simple. It switches to Verizon, and that's it. So then you just come into WIN-911 settings. It tells you to go ahead and go to your gateways SMS. Click on the plus side, add a new one. Connection type is going to be serial port for this modem. And there is the USB to serial adapter. It mentions that up here as well. And if you have a serial port, great. If you don't, you use serial cable with the serial to USB converter. And we do not recommend using the USB only version of the LNA4. Get the serial version. The reason that is because the USB version takes its power straight from the USB port instead of having its own dedicated power supply. And if there's any issue with power on the machine, it not getting enough power from the USB port, something like that, then it's not going to send messages, and it's just not a reliable option, so we don't recommend it. So again, you're in the WIN-911 settings, right? Connection type is serial. So let's going back here, we're in serial. Give this a name. And the port, right, it tells you exactly where to find that from going into the device manager, and it shows you what port that the machine is assigning that modem. So you'd just drop in here and go to port, click on this ellipse button, say COM1 short, All right. What do you do next? You don't know what to do for radio type, initialization, any of this, so just keep following along here. The radio type, WIN-911 automatically detects that you're using the LNA for, so you don't need to do anything. Just leave GSM connected. Initialization, again, this is coded in the background of the software. Just leave it blank. You have the option to enable incoming. When enabled, WIN-911 will process the incoming SMS messages. So again, this is if you're ACking from the cell phone. Getting the text message. If you don't want to do that, if you're not using it to acknowledge, you don't have to check the box. But if you want to ACK from the phone, then you're going to check the box for enable incoming. And then this truncate messages to 70 characters, that's not necessary either. I mean, you can, but both Verizon and AT&T allow multi-part text messages, so you don't need to do this option at all. So once you have the settings in there, you're plugged into the modem's booted up. You follow this guide. If you need to switch to Verizon, you should just be able to go ahead and test settings, and it's going to send a message to the modem and out to a phone. And it should come back with a success, green check mark again, and if it doesn't, the other thing that it does when you do the test is it checks the registration status, it checks the signal quality, the bit disparity rate, and if it's not registered, it will come back and tell you something along the lines of not registered on the network or provider network not available. So that means that you didn't get an activated SIM card. Maybe you got a SIM card, but you didn't go activate it and tell them, hey, I'm using this for this model of modem. Activate the account with a unlimited texting account. You don't need voice, you don't need data. All that's in here as well. So if you come here to the activating SIM card information, it tells you that you need to set up a wireless account with a provider, standard SIM card. We can send many text messages, so recommend subscribing to unlimited texting plan. Neither data nor voice is required. So if you get some error in regards to registration, first thing I would do is call Verizon or AT&T, whatever your provider is, and say, hey, is this activated? Is this good to go? We got a texting account, and they'll be able to tell you that. If your signal is below the number 10, and that'll come up in the error as well if it fails, if it doesn't send it. But if your signal is below 10, you probably have some bad service, and you're going to have some intermittent issues, just like any cell phone with bad service. So you might not be able to send and receive all the time. Just move it to a better location if you can. Usually that's not an issue unless you're in some kind of secured like basement concrete wall area, but just be aware of that. So for the SMS side, that's pretty much it. Again, that's all you have to do. Follow the guide, set it up here. The advanced settings, you should never have to touch any of these. Those should never be changing. Those should always be the same. I wouldn't even mess with that page. So that's it for the SMS. Again, I wish I could test it and show you if there is an error or not, but again, it's just going to be the same green check mark or an error saying registration required or something else. But we'll get into that again in the troubleshooting part. All right, so on to voice. Come on, VM. Okay, so voice, you have two options here. You're either using the old school TAPI modem, which is, as you can see, extremely easy. You plug in the modem. We have a KB article on it as well. It takes a COM port. You select the port out of the list here, and you're done. And that's just an old, what we call just a dumb, plain old telephone modem. It just dials out a number on an analog phone line. There's nothing special. You can't change any settings about it here. That's all it does. If you're not using the old TAPI modem, which Microsoft broke their functionality in Windows 10 1903 and 1909, by the way, if you have a TAPI modem and you were a victim of the Microsoft update, there is a workaround. We've tried to make this as public as we can, but you can also just go search for it. We do have an article for it. If you need to open a ticket for it, that's fine, but you just need to change your registry. There's a couple registry edit hacks that you need to add to your Windows registry, and it'll make the TAPI modem work again. So it's not something that I would recommend long term because Microsoft can just release another update next month and break it again, and that would just be annoying to not have the peace of mind that it's going to keep working. You know, Tappy is an old Microsoft created protocol, and the fact that they are having issues with it with their own updates, it's kind of just not a smart idea to keep using it. So we moved to replace Tappy with the Grandstream device. If you're not familiar with the Grandstream, it's our replacement for Tappy modems because it lets you use your analog line, but it's just a much better, more reliable, future-proofing option that takes the Tappy protocol out of the equation. So, you know, go back to our website, go to the knowledge base, type in Grandstream, and we have the article right here for you. If you did not purchase it from us, I made an article for you. If you did purchase it from us, it's much more easy to set up, and we have an article for that as well. So that is the alternative to Tappy, which is the SIP voice over IP settings here, right? So just kind of an upfront warning: if you're not using the Grandstream, you're using your own VoIP provider, your own SIP provider. Just like an internal mail server from you guys, this all comes from whoever's in charge of that voice over IP server or the SIP provider settings. Every single setting in here comes from them, not from us. We're just a soft phone. We're asking permission to make a call through someone else's system. So your VoIP server admin, your IT department, whatever VoIP server you're using, if you're using a Cisco call manager, whatever the case may be, your IT department is in charge of, or contacting Cisco directly, whatever you need to do, of you setting up the IP for your Cisco call manager, you knowing the registration ID and the password that was set up to allow WIN-911 to talk to that VoIP server. Its own IP address here, the server address, this is the VoIP server, right? The IT department is again in charge of assigning that IP. So every single setting in here, I can't tell you how to set up your own VoIP server settings here because it needs to be done from your network administrator, your voice admin, your IT department. But to go through and understand the settings and what they mean here, that's what I want to relay. And if you're using the Grandstream, all this stuff is you know, line by line laid out for you exactly how you need to use it. So just wanted to throw that out there. We have no power over setting up your VoIP server. That's all up to whoever's in charge of that. So the user ID, this can also be something like an extension or, you know, called something else with other VoIP servers, but this is essentially the user who's asking to make the call. So in this example, we're using just user ID 1000, the registration required checkbox. This ID and this ID should be the same. Unless your VoIP server and whoever's in charge of that has different settings for some reason, they could want you to authenticate as a different account. Again, that comes from them. And then the password for that registration ID. So pretty straightforward there. You don't have to put a display name in here. That's just like a caller ID. The bidirectional inbound and outbound channel. If this isn't self-explanatory, bidirectional is, you know, outbound and inbound on the same channel. Inbound is just inbound calls only, and outbound is reserved for dialing out. So again, for the Grandstream, if you get that from us, it just needs one bidirectional channel, you're good to go. If you're using your own VoIP server, SIP provider, this comes from them. They could have 10 outbound and inbound channels available, you know, if that's all on their end, or they could just have one. But for the Grandstream specifically, you just need one bidirectional channel, and everything is covered in the guide. So again, you don't know what you're doing and you're not sure how to set it up, pull up the guide, and this is going to tell you everything you need to know to set up the Grandstream and to set it up for WIN-911 as well. I've done multiple webinars, how-to videos, articles for the Grandstream, so I'm not going to go to this in depth. If you want to see the full webinar that I just recently did, specifically for voice and Grandstream, please go to our webinars page and check that out. From our home page, you can go to resources, webinars, and these top ones up here are the, you know, kind of upcoming, on deck, or maybe like a week ago type of webinar setup. And when you scroll down further, these are all of our webinars that we've already done and we have recorded for you to reference whenever you need to. So we have these broken down into just general, data source specific, notifiers. And so right here, did a grand stream webinar here. I did another grand stream webinar here. So if you're interested in that, please go check that out. But again, follow the guide. Tells you everything you need to do inside the grand stream. Tells you everything you need to do on the WIN-911 side. Every single setting here. Again, if you're using your own VoIP server, all of this comes from them. And when you're done, test SIP settings button is going to test a phone call. 8675309. Hit test. It's going to give you a green check mark or a red X, right? All these settings. The one big one that you might not know about from again a VoIP provider or the grand stream device, it's in the guide, but there's, for some reason, I'm not sure why, maybe I need to make it even bigger and bolder letters. It's right here, but if you have more than one IP address assigned to your machine that's running WIN-911, you must change that binding setting to specify and put in the IP address of the correct network interface card for your machine to be on the same network as the grand stream device or your VoIP server, right? So that's this binding address right here. If you click use all and you have more than one, it's not going to know what to bind to. It could be talking to anything. If you have more than one network interface card on your machine, more than one IP address, you need to specify the one that's on the correct network that matches where the grand stream or the VoIP server is. Right, so a lot of people have one network card connected to the SCADA network and another one connected to the business network. You need to put the right one in here. That is very important. That keeps happening. Yeah, so every setting in here is covered in the grand stream or comes from your IT department. So pretty straightforward here. When you save it, you got the test SIP settings button. And if you have a problem, again, we'll talk about the troubleshooting altogether, but follow the guide for setting this up and you should be able to test SIP settings and call out. For the audio tab, so when you're first setting this up, you've never been in here before, it's going to make you select a voice, and you're not going to be able to save any settings on this general screen until you click on the audio tab and select a voice. So you know, by default, this should just show like the Microsoft David or Zira or whatever voice engine that your machine has. This is just WIN-911 software pulling whatever voice you have on your Windows box. We're not creating this. We don't own this. We don't generate this. It's just off your Microsoft voice engine. So then you can have some settings for speaking off rate. If you go to the right, this is faster. Left is slower. And then the volume of the call, right? So this is really the only thing you can fine tune or tweak if you want it louder or quieter or to speak slower. And then you can type in your own grading message here, whatever you want it to say. This is the wastewater treatment plant WIN-911 call center, or just WIN-911 alarms, whatever you want to type in here manually, anything you want. And then for the codec, don't ever click specify codec. It should never be the case. Even if you're using your own voice over IP server, they're going to have a codec that they prefer. Always keep this auto select. Don't ever put a specific one in here. The auto select covers about a dozen different codecs that exist out there, and it will negotiate whatever the VoIP server wants. So there's no reason to change this to specify codec. And that's it for the voice side. So again, there's either Tappy, super easy, plug it in, choose it, you're done. VoIP, all this comes from your VoIP provider or SIP provider, unless you're using our Grand Stream, which is a Tappy replacement, in which case follow the guide, tells you everything you need to do. And I have multiple webinars out there already for specifically setting up Grand Stream if you want to get into that. All right, so last but definitely the greatest is the new WIN-911 mobile app. If you're not familiar with it, if you haven't used it, if you haven't seen it, it is a game changer. It is by far the best option for a notifier type, in my opinion. The app is fantastic. It's been super reliable, very robust, easy to set up. We have embedded chat feature inside the app, so you guys can talk to each other. Different operators can see who's doing what. You have the option to change your alarm formats right in the mobile app. It's all handled in the Microsoft Azure Cloud Service, so there's no security issues like there were with the old mobile 911 app. That one you had to poke a hole in your firewall to talk back through your network back into WIN-911. The new mobile is all outbound initiated, authenticates to Microsoft Azure Cloud, and the cloud service pushes those notifications down to the cell phone. So very, very exciting, and just the best option available. If you've never set it up and you have no idea what to do, first thing you need to do is call and talk to one of our admins or sales or whoever answers the phone for you at WIN-911. They're going to tell you exactly what you need to do, and they're going to send you an email to give you your username for your mobile gateway account. Okay. Now this happens automatically if you requested a download and a license. You have a checkbox that says include a mobile account for me. So it could be in that email that you first get from WIN-911. But if you have an existing WIN-911 system today and you're just thinking about adding mobile, just go ahead and call us. One of the admins or one of the sales guys can create a mobile account for you, and they're gonna send you the username and temporary password. Now, so this is all you need to do. If you have no idea what any of this means in here, go back to our knowledge base, type in mobile. Again, I've created multiple videos and all of these documents for the mobile side. So we have the full security overview. This is if you're really interested in all of the inner workings of it talking to Microsoft Azure and authenticating with its token-based authentication and all that. We have that for you, for your IT department if they want to see it. The hub setup, we'll get into that in just a minute here. The quick start guide, it's probably where you want to start. Multi-site connection setup. That's pretty rare. I only think I've seen a couple of those, so you probably don't need to use this, but essentially you can have multiple WIN-911 environments, WIN-911 systems, all connecting to the same hub and pushing out information through that one kind of proxy server for the hub. And then the gateway and login management. So again, if you're just curious about getting mobile going, I would start with the quick start guide and the gateway login management. They're going to send you a username, which is your serial number of your WIN-911 system, right, at win911mobile.com. That's your username. And then they're going to give you a temporary password. So if we were to, delete this information, it's blank, just like yours would be today. You can't just put in the username and the temporary password here. It's a temporary password. It has not been completed yet. So I want to go over what to do when you first get your account set up. So follow the KB article, right? You contact sales, you give us a call, you get the account information. It's going to be a temporary password. You have to change that in the mobile cloud service before you can use it. Okay, so you can log in to login.microsoftonline.com, or you can just follow this blue link right here. It goes to the same place. This is going to be the link to go straight to the Microsoft Production Azure website, and it's going to ask you for the username and password. In here, you obviously have a temporary password, so when you first set it up, this is going to be exactly what it looks like. You put the temp in, you hit sign in, and it's going to go to a screen that looks like this, where it says, okay, now update your password. So the temporary, it asks you to confirm the new password twice, and then this is your account. We don't know what your password is. We don't control it. This is all through Microsoft Online. You're creating a Microsoft account when you do this. So you set up your password that we have no idea what it is. It's up to you to maintain that, or go to Microsoft Online and click forgot my password. Okay. You set up the permanent password for your account. It's going to prompt you to go ahead and add a phone number or an email address. This is just for that, two-factor authentication. It'll text you or send you an email with a verification code. You put it in here and you're done. And then you can go ahead and put in that gateway information, which is going to be the serial number at WIN-911 Mobile and the password that you just set up. Now this is your account permanently. It should never change. Once you put in that information, you should be able to just click validate credentials and make sure that it goes through. If there's a problem, The first thing I would do is make sure that you actually click the save button. Let these settings save, let it process the fact that you just put in information, and then go to online gateway management. So you can click in here and actually sign into the account itself after you save the settings, and you should see your site name and any connection that you've added. This will come later. I'll show you how to add connections. But once you can log in here, right, and you see a screen that looks just like this, you know the credentials are good, so you're fine there. Then I would go back, click edit, try to validate again, and it should go through no problem. Again, this has been bulletproof. It's been extremely reliable, very easy to set up. The only issue I've ever seen is somebody letting their support agreement lapse with WIN-911 or expire, which will stop the functionality of mobile because this account is tied to the expiration date of your support contract with us. So as long as you're on support, this stuff never changes and it just works. It works great. So that's the gateway. Go to the KB article, follow it like we just did, validate credentials, and you should get that green check mark. It goes through and tells you how to configure WIN-911 mobile connections here as well. So we're just going to go through that real quick because it is something new. If you've never used it before, want to make sure that you're confident with this. So this is, again, all done through Microsoft's Microsoft Online Account Service. So in the WIN-911 workspace, you set up the gateway. Now you go to connections and set up a user. And you can see here that all you really do is put in a name, whatever you want, and an email address. Now, of course, there are other options, like you want to make sure that you allow ACK or not allow ACK, things like that. But for the account, you just put in an email address. That's it. And when you put in that email, it's going to send you an invitation from Microsoft Online. It looks just like this. And as soon as you get that invitation, you just follow the link, get started. You're going to go tie this to a Microsoft account the same exact way, put in a new password for yourself, allow the permissions, hit accept, and there's your credentials to log into the mobile. Again, all done through login.microsoftonline.com. We don't know your passwords. We have no control over that. You're setting up your own Microsoft account for this, and you use this email and the password that you set up to log into your mobile app. And that's it. The mobile app is logged in. You can see your site name. As soon as you start adding your users here to a tactic to get the notifications from all of the rest of your WIN-911 setup, right? Your alarming, your strategies, your tactics. As soon as you add them in here, they'll start getting alarms. And even if you forget to add them, you can also request alarms from the mobile app, and any live alarms, it'll send them to you. So make sure you don't forget to add somebody to a tactic, though. That's a big important step. But that's it. So, you know, the gateway, super easy. The login for the mobile app itself, super easy. Just follow this guide. We have plenty of other videos on them and knowledge-based articles on every other step as well. Just keep in mind that we don't do anything with your account. We don't do anything with the passwords. We don't store that. We don't see it. If you forget your own login, just like, you know, logging into Gmail, you got to just do the forget password type of setup. So that's it for the mobile app. And I do recommend, if you're interested, to watch the full webinar on the mobile app, because it goes into great detail about what the app looks like and, you know, some different functionality. So go back to our webinars page here, and we should have a couple of them, if not just one. And then we have the how-to videos section, which is resources, how-to videos. And you can come down here to the notifiers, and you can see we have the mobile basic configuration, advanced configuration, got a grand stream video as well. So all that is available to you. You just gotta know where to look, and that's it for mobile. All right, so that's all the notifier types, the gateway connections, and the settings for each one of those. So now I just want to quickly go over troubleshooting. So, you know, really the reason I wanted to save this for the end is because it's all the same. It genuinely is all the same. If you're having an issue, you just go put that module in debug mode, put it in debug, logging, go check the event viewer, and just read what's going on. It's going to tell you so much more information than you can imagine. It's going to be very helpful. If you've never done that and you have no idea how to put something in debug logging mode, guess where we're going to go? Back to the knowledge base, type in debug. There you go, how to turn on debug logging. This will give you every step along the way. You just go to the config file for whatever module you're looking to do. This is talking about the email in this example. You go to that config file, open it with a notepad, change logging flags from default to debug, save it, and restart the service. So you can go through this on your own if you want to, super easy. But to show you, open up C, program files, x86, into WIN-911 software, into enterprise, and let's do email. So you can see here you have an email runtime executable and an email runtime executable config file. Go ahead and open this with a notepad, and as it shows you in the guide, logging flags value should be default by default, but I already have mine in debug mode. So all you would do is change this from default to debug, Control S or file save, same thing, and close it out, and then go to your Windows services. And because we're doing this for email specifically, you're going to go find the WIN-911 email runtime service. So go to the W's. Here's all our WIN-911 services. Email. You're going to right click, restart it. So that's it. You're in debug logging mode for email now. So where do those logs go? What do you do? Start button, type event viewer. If your machine doesn't have indexing or search optimization on, you can just go to administrative tools and find event viewer, or just Google where's the event viewer. So in the event viewer, you're going to expand this little caret next to application services logs, and depending on the performance of the machine, it might take about 30 seconds or so for this to actually process and load out. But just wait, and this is going to expand to a big long list of all applications on the machine that have logging. I'll give it a second here. And basically, we just have our own event viewer logging information set to a WIN-911 log. So you don't have to look all over the place. Everything is going to be right here in WIN-911. So once that loads up, you're going to see, look at all these debug logs for email and what's going on, right? Whatever you have in debug mode is going to be this much higher logging level that's going to fill up these logs much more frequently than you can see. There's a simplicity runtime that's not in debug, so it's not blasting out all these logs, but you can already tell my voice and my email must both be in debug because there's all this debug information in here. So then you're going to just start looking for what's going on, right? Start going through the log and just read what's happening here in this bottom pane. I'll make this bigger for you guys. And when everything's good, it's just an information level, right? There's no error or warning or nothing's going wrong. But if you go to the workspace and you try to send an email message, it's going to tell you every single step of that SMTP conversation back and forth with your mail server. So again, with Gmail, it's pretty easy. You can follow our KB article and make a Gmail account, and you're set. But if you're using your own internal mail server, which this is what I show people all the time, go to the debug logs, and it's going to tell you exactly what's wrong with your mail server settings. Mail server is going to come back and say access denied, or authentication required, or permissions unauthorized, something. It's going to tell you exactly what happens. So we'll send the test email right now, and we'll do unknown source at Gmail. Success. We'll go back here, hit refresh, and I will show you every single step that the email service takes. Where is it? Email. All right, hit refresh again if you don't see it because it might not have popped in here yet. Message count 0. Callback timer. So this is just showing you that, essentially everything's good here. It's just saying verifying product code. But what you're looking for is the start of the SMS actual or SMTP communication to the server itself. So okay, so here's one. You got incoming initialized. This would have given you an error if incoming did not initialize. You got incoming mail handler configuration loaded, so we're good. Starting email notification service. All that's good. Let's refresh and see if anything new came in. Message count is 0, so nothing wrong yet. So yeah, as you can see, mine's working, so it's fine. But let's say, maybe let's try to break it, and I'll show you what you could be looking for here. So let me just refresh this. And let's see if I can just delete one of my characters in my password, and we'll save that. And let me go back into edit, send test email. And there you go. First of all, it tells you right here, unable to authenticate with your SMTP server. This may be because of a username, password, TLS setting that's incorrect. Verify outgoing mail server with your mail server administrator. All right, so obviously we just messed up the password. If you get this, you either mistyped your email or your password, try to type it in again, or your mail server is not accepting it. And again, WIN-911 can't control that. That's on your mail server side. They have to know what they're doing to set up an account that can talk to its own server, right? If you're using Gmail, super easy. Go log into gmail.com and log in with the same credentials. Make sure you can log in. Then you know your user account is good. But that error right there is really all you need, but that also should be here in the debug logs. Yep, right here. So email notifier, incoming exception, password, failed, authentication, username and password not accepted. So there you go. That's all the information you need to go back, double check that you can, type in your password here again. Make sure I just do this from the beginning. Save. And there you go. And so again, I showed you for the email, but it's the same exact thing across the board for whatever notifier types that you're currently troubleshooting. If you're having an issue with voice, you go into the voice folder, you go into its runtime config, you open that with a notepad, and you change the logging flags from default to debug. You save and restart that service. Same thing if you're having an issue with your iFix source, if you're having an issue with mobile, if you're having an issue with anything, it's the same exact steps. And then everything is written to the event viewer log. And again, 9 times out of 10, this will give you exactly what you need to know. You can see here, there's a random voice error, right? It tells you failed to register with a VoIP provider, cannot create SIP transport, invalid location. It's because I'm not connected to any VoIP server. It's just a setting that isn't talking to anything right now. But it'll tell you everything you need to know right in here. So troubleshooting, again, very easy. Same thing across the board. Use the event viewer. Use debug logging. When you're done, if you find out the issue, you can go ahead and just turn debug logging back off by doing the same thing in reverse here. Just go back in here and change debug to default and save it. And and go restart the service. If you ever forget these steps, again, very easy to just go to our knowledge base and type in debug, and how to turn on debug logging tells you everything you need to know. If you can't figure it out from turning on debug logging and reading the logs, if you just don't know what's going on, then absolutely open a ticket with us in support. If it's something to do with a mail server or your VoIP server, definitely talk to your IT department first, because that's what we're going to tell you to do. We can't do anything about those settings. They come from them. But if they say everything's good, you think everything's good, and you can't figure it out with debug logging, let us know. We'll come in there and give you, the ammunition, the information you need to go back to whoever's in charge of this, or fix it if there is some kind of setting wrong, or you miss something. So that is it. We got through all the notifiers and how to turn on debug logging and troubleshooting. Every module is the same. Went through the new mobile app, how to set up the gateway and the connections. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys today. We'll open it up to a couple of questions. If you want to type any questions you might have still into the questions section, and I'll go through those real quick before we finish up. Question here from Josh. We are using Office 365's mail server for email and SMS. We considered purchasing a cellular modem, but after learning that the cell modem only works for SMS, we opted to do SMS via email. Do you advise against that approach? Yeah, that's a good question, Josh, and this comes up a lot, and it's really out of our hands, and that's why it's frustrating, because one day email over SMS is going to work just fine. You can send an SMS message to a phone by putting in the phone number at vtext.com or whatever the provider's domain is, right? And it'll work today, and then it won't work, and we can't do anything about it because the provider changed something on their end. They changed the domain a lot. They changed their formatting. You can't ACK back through email to SMS transition because the provider changes the format, makes it an attachment instead of plain text. So as a long-term solution, if you want to use SMS, I definitely recommend getting an SMS modem dedicated to doing this, and just use email for email. Again, it can work. I don't foresee an issue with Office 365 changing this, but the provider themselves, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, right, whatever that phone provider is, can change at any point, and it's going to stop working. And again, we have no control over that. It's not our protocol. It's not our rules. It's the same for any software company in the world doing email over SMS, and the provider can change what they do. So. Excuse me. All right, we got one other question here. Does the WIN-911 machine need internet access for the online gateway management? Yes, it does. So the mobile side, it needs internet access on this machine. Now, if you don't have internet access and you want to use mobile, you need to use the hub, which is going to be this proxy machine. Basically, it just sends this traffic to a different machine. And that machine has to have internet access. Some machine has to have it. Whatever machine you do have internet access on, enable the hub, go install the hub on that machine and put the IP address of that machine here. If you need to know how to set that up, again, go back here, type in mobile, and we have the hub set up. I also have a full video on this as well. But this goes through and shows you how to install the hub. Install it as the same exact username and password as the WIN-911 service account. And out to the internet. Now, you could still have a problem where maybe that machine has internet access, but you have it so locked down that it doesn't have access to the right URLs that it needs. Again, if you have that problem, all on your phone, they need to look at the firewall, see what's getting blocked when you test this validate credentials and when you test sending a message. When you take this online gateway management and you click on it here, if you don't have internet access on this machine, right, just copy and paste this link and go take it to a machine that does have internet access. But again, if you're getting blocked traffic and the hub can't access the right URLs, your firewall team needs to get involved, watch what's getting blocked and manually unblock and allow that traffic. All right, any other questions? Yep, so all of these webinars, this one, everyone before this, they're always available on our website. If you go to resources, webinars. Again, the ones up here on the top are usually the ones on deck. You can see this is today's, excuse me, and all of the other webinars that we've done, so for the previous weeks and everything beforehand is all listed down here. So these are always available to you. All right, guys, that's it for the questions. Thank you so much for attending. Hopefully this is going to help you out, and have a fantastic rest of your week.